Hello, David. How are you?
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
I am doing well today. I'm doing pretty well. It's very cold here in New York. It's 27 degrees, but I hear it's even colder where you are.
Yeah, we got ourselves about 19 degrees over here, so
Oof, oof.
a little
That
chilly.
is that is too cold. It shouldn't be allowed. So,
Hopefully it'll warm
um,
up
for
soon.
folks joining us, I'm Shy. I'm part of the developer relations team here at Contentful. David is also part of the developer relations team. We are both here to share with you some fun live code and stuff today. Um, so give us a shout if you're in the comments. We do read all the comments. We like to show them on screen. So if you're watching, do tune in and say hi. We'd love to hear from you. Um, so David, what are we doing today? What's the plan?
Yeah, so I think taking a look at the community Slack, I see that a few people are working on custom renderers
Yeah.
for their apps. And one thing that I noted was a lot of people are using reference fields. And so I think it's, something we can take a look at today and maybe build a custom reference field renderer or an app that renders a reference field in a custom way. So we can explore some options there. I think it'll be
Yeah.
fun.
That sounds great. That sounds like a lot of fun. And we have a bunch of people popping in. So, Salma, I see Salma's here. Hey, hey, show my comment. We are showing your comment. We've got Marcelo from the Headless Creator watching this one. We've got Stefan Stephen watching. We've got a bunch of people. So this is really exciting. Before we dive into things, we should go over our usual notes. As always, this stream, all our streams, everything we do at Contentful is under the Contentful Code of Conduct. The TLDR is harassment and abuse are never tolerated. If someone tells you something you're doing is making them uncomfortable, that's enough reason to stop. If you feel uncomfortable and want some help, please do reach out to us. We'd be happy to address it as fast as we can. Our full moderation list is up on our code of conduct, and you can get to that either at that link or just going to the Contentful documentation and looking up code of conduct as well. So do reach out if anything is going wrong. If someone in the comments or even us are doing something to make you feel uncomfortable, please do let us know. If you're looking to learn about Contentful, if you're looking to level up about Contentful, if you're brand new or a veteran, the Contentful Developer Portal is the place to go. Do check it out. It's got all our links to our upcoming live streams, our upcoming tutorials, our blog posts. I hear both you and me have some interesting stuff coming out in March, so look forward to that. If you want to chat with us, do join us on Slack. We hang out there and answer questions there fairly regularly. We have a GraphQL course if you're looking to learn either GraphQL, React, Contentful, or some sort of combination of the three. We want to help make sure that you can do all the learning that you need. And then lastly, if you're looking for some swag, just build something using our GraphQL API, and we will hook you up with some great swag, including socks and stickers. And yeah. I think that's pretty much all of the usual housekeeping stuff. If you think we could maybe jump into what we're doing today, if that sounds good for you, David.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's start by taking a look, I guess, the community Slack. So
Yeah.
again, we've got this Slack community where a lot of people are posting, the problems, the interesting problems they're
Yeah.
working through, and the apps they're building.
You have so
Again,
many unreads in this live.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff to sift through. I mean, what's really cool is I do try to focus a little bit more on the extensibility channel because I'm focusing on the app stuff.
You are
And
the king of app frameworks on the developer relations team. For folks who don't know, David is kind of selling himself short here. Not only is he like the person who knows everything about apps in our DevRel team, he is also the person who helped make the app framework in the Contentful engineering team, and we stole him to help teach people about it.
yeah, I mean, so far I found it really interesting, like all of the different use cases that people are, presenting and showing, and
Mhm.
it's funny because it's like this one of these things where it's like as a developer you build the thing based on specifications and then you go and show it to the community and everyone's like,
Mhm.
oh no, we want to use it like this. So I think it's like a classic problem in software where it's like the user is always showing you new ways to like use this stuff. So
I mean, what's that?
um,
What's that famous plan or that famous phrase? Like every plan is perfect until it encounters, other people or the enemy or something, and it feels very much like that. Like you build a
yeah.
thing. And
Yeah, that is kind of what's happening here. I mean, what is nice is I do find that a lot of the things that people are working on, they can be done using the app framework. It's just what ends up happening is we start to go into the more advanced use cases like pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But again, we do provide a lot of tooling that even though you might have an advanced use case, like hopefully the complexity level is not too high because some of the tooling abstracts away some of this stuff. So actually, for an example here, I want to point out something that Ben has been working on here in the community, and something I've been looking into and will continue to look into because it's a bit of a, we've got something big going on here. But one of the things that was brought up, there's a few things here, but one of the things that was brought up was, can we use or can I customize the way a reference field works in order to, make it do more things than just what the basic reference field can do. And what I mean by reference fields are, if you're familiar with Contentful, you can link other entries in Contentful into other content types, and that's what a reference field is. But we can actually just get started right away doing that, just so people have an idea of what that means. Let me bump up the size here. So yeah, in Contentful, I'm going to create a new content type just for this, just for us to play around with today. And it's going to be a reference field content type. We can just create, I don't know, maybe like a list or something of blog posts. Let's say list of blog posts is our content type here. And I'll add two fields. Well, let's just say, the title of the list.
iTitle. We're making some Apple products today.
Yeah, maybe I should avoid any cease and desists.
I don't think they have a copyright on iTitle, so not yet.
Oh, maybe I should run to the patent office. So what I'll do here is I'll create a many references, and again, this will be, let's just call this the blog posts. Okay. And I'll hit create and configure, not because I want to configure anything just yet, but because I want to show a few things, which is, one, I can add validations, which means I can make it say I only want it to allow for certain types of references to show up in my field. And for this specific case, I think I'm just going to do blog posts.
Makes sense.
Yeah, just to limit people. I don't want to have other things going on in this. And the other thing I want to point out, which we won't really work with just yet, but we are going to start changing, is in the Appearance tab. This is where we're going to build a custom app, and it's going to show up next to these default options, where we can then start to edit and tweak how we want references to show up. But let me just use the default settings here, so I'm not changing anything. Just so we can take a quick look and, again, for people that aren't super familiar, we can see what a reference field looks like, first of all. So I will create a new list of blog posts content type. I'll say this is my featured list, right? And in it, this is, again, a reference field. So what I'm looking at here is a reference field, and this adding content, I can add existing content, and you can see the blog posts that I've already got in my space are showing up. And I will add both of these blog posts for now, just to show that, this is what the reference field is going to look like. And of course, in the Contentful API response, it's going to be, this array of the entries that it links to. And so I can get those IDs, and I can go and fetch these entries as well.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So let's, I guess, build an app, right?
Yeah, let's build an app. So I guess, can we click into the blog post and just get a sense for folks watching, like, what is in this content model that you're linking to? And maybe that'll help us figure out how we can customize how it looks here in this list.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so in these blog posts themselves, I've got I should fix this, but I've got what we can do is we can add a markdown field here, so we can have the title of the blog post and a markdown field. And actually, yeah, let's go and customize that right now, because actually, what might be really cool to do is, let's add really quickly. I'll do rich text.
Sure.
We'll say this is the body. We'll get rid of this repeater list for now, because that was something else I'm working on. Sneak peek. Okay.
I feel like our content models always get so ridiculous so quickly because we're always doing a million different things. And
Yeah.
I don't know how your space looks, but my space is just full of so much random stuff. I think I have 4 copies of like the same thing because I've just keep reusing things for different projects and stuff, and things get out of control fairly quickly
Yeah,
for us at least.
that's how I feel. But luckily you can just kind of move these things around.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so our blog post will contain some simple stuff now. It's just going to have a title and a body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
No pictures? You're not in the mood for pictures today?
not in the mood for pictures,
All
but I
right.
think something that actually might be pretty cool is what we can do is if we want to create a reference field that shows a little bit more information. So for example, back on this field, you'll see that what we've got is the title of the blog post, right? So if I click
Yeah.
into this, I can see that this is the title of the blog post,
Mm-hmm.
and the body of the blog post is just whatever, except let's say I want to create a custom reference field that shows like a preview or something like this of my blog post, right? So I'll say like, this is the first sentence, this is the second. And I think what we can do, let me save these changes. I think what we can do is create an app that somewhat mimics this UI, but starts to also add additional information into it. And I think this will help people start to maybe play around with this and see that, they can use the reference field backing content model, but they can create these custom UIs that allow them to, have more powerful features, I guess. So let's, first things first, when creating an app, you need to create an app definition. And I'll explain again what that is in a second, but I do want to put a disclaimer, which is, if you're creating an app, if you're developing inside of Contentful, you do need to be an admin or a developer at the organization level.
Yep.
So if you've got your own organization for test purposes, you're fine. If you're working inside of like a big corporate organization, you may need to, fix your limitations or your developer role or anything like that. I personally, I just work in these kind of like custom organizations where I just play around. So for me, it, works out just fine. But yeah, so to create an app definition, we need to go into the organization properties of our, Contentful area. So I'm going to go to the organization menu here, and I'm going to go to organization settings. And up in the top menu, I'll click on apps. And again, this is all available if
you have so many apps, David.
Yeah, these are all, development apps, and I think I'm going to actually even have to delete one of them right now.
Yeah, I think my favorite is sync all the things with 3 exclamation marks. I have no idea what that is, but I want to know what that is.
I actually don't know what that is either. But let's see, what can we delete here? I think I created this a little while ago, actually. On I think maybe a different.
Yeah, I feel like you and I might have made that one together. I think I'm the Bulma fanboy on the team.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just delete this for now.
Bye, Bulma.
So up here in the actions, I'm going to hit delete Bulma selector. This is just getting rid of an app definition. And again, I'll explain really quickly what that means. So yeah, what these are is a list of app definitions. These app definitions help private apps show up in your organization. They'll show up across spaces, and you can start to install these apps in different spaces. So I'm going to create a new app definition here. Let's call it the blog post list or reference. Let's say reference list. And this is going to be a custom app that shows, custom references. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to host this app on localhost 3000 because we're going to be running this locally in the developer mode.
That makes sense.
Let's see. We don't need an app configuration screen where I don't think we're going to have too much configuration.
I think it's just on the field level.
Yeah. So I think I'll definitely check field level here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an entry reference, and it's going to be a list of references.
This is really cool. I'm always impressed when it's set up this way, that you've got both the single version and the list version as discrete things. the folks who maybe are new to Contentful might not know, but the list of appearances you get is actually different depending on if you use as a single type or as a list type, and so that's something cool that I think is also explicitly like kind of broken out here. We usually describe Contentful as like having 7 different types of fields, but like really, if you get into the nitty gritty, it's like 7 with a couple variations for the multi things. So
Right. And I think, it just helps with adding,
Mhm.
certain kinds of, you can do
Yeah,
some more dynamic things with
yeah,
that.
yeah. You can get the feel of like radio boxes or check boxes by taking short text validations, things like that. So
Right. Yeah. So, again, I'm gonna check entry field because it's gonna start showing up in a field,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be the entry reference. It's gonna be the list type. This is just
Yeah.
another way of saying it's the many references.
Mhm.
And all these other fields I don't need. I don't need it to show up in the sidebar. I don't need a page location. I don't need like a full entry editor.
Mhm.
And instance parameters, we've talked about this in the
Yeah.
past. I don't think we really need any right
No.
now. There's probably use
Mm.
cases that we could dive into later, but I'm going to just leave that
The page
untouched.
one, while we're here, I feel like maybe an interesting use case in this specific scenario, since we are talking about blog posts here, right? Let's say you want to have a little preview thing, right? Maybe you want to take the CSS from your front end and preview the blog post. Like maybe a page would be an interesting use case at some point for some people. Maybe you're running a static site and you don't want you're able to decouple the styling away from your thing, and you want to give it so folks can see a preview. Like the page thing I feel like would be really useful for that, take over the whole thing, give you an embed of something like that. But
Yeah, for sure. And people that aren't familiar with what the page
yeah,
location is, you can imagine, so this blue header bar up at the top is what you
yeah,
get, and then the rest of the screen is like your app. So you
yeah,
can fill the space with all of your custom logic
yeah, get you
and still
pretty
get
close
access.
to that preview feel, so, and
Yeah.
have it in a place that's like safe and contained. So
Yeah, and actually, previously when I was on stream with Stefan, we did like a Markdown editor that had a dashboard view
Mhm.
where you can see like all the places the Markdown editor showed up. So it was really, it was a cool like overview style app in that
Mhm.
sense. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create this app definition. And once it's created, I'll get this confirmation message. I also can see information about like when it was created and who it was created
Mhm.
by. There's a few other things in here that I'm not going to talk about right now, but if you're interested, we do have documentation around
Sure.
these things. Um,
Why
okay,
don't you pull that
so
up actually really quickly, just so folks know what the link is?
yeah, so I think the easiest way to get to our documentation is contentful.com/developers, as I've got up here. And this is our developer portal where we talk
Mhm.
about all the things we're doing
Yeah.
in the coming weeks, coming days. But up at the top, you can go into documentation, and specifically, if you're looking for app documentation, it's under this extensibility tab,
Yeah.
and we've got the app framework, we've got apps and UI extensions, what the differences is, how to migrate over, how to use the SDK, and all that
Yep.
stuff. Actually, what's really cool and what's going to be coming up soon is we've just upgraded our tutorial for how to build an app,
Ooh.
and
You're
we've
going to be
got
back at some point to maybe talk about that on stream
yes.
with Felix.
Yes, actually, in 2 weeks, March 16th, we're going to be running through this tutorial, and also we're going to be augmenting it with some cool customizable features as well.
Yeah, that'll be pretty exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, this is how you get to the documentation. Again, it's contentful.com/developers and then /docs if you want to go straight to the documentation.
Mhm.
Okay, so back in our Contentful organization, I've just created my app definition. And I'm going to go back to my space where we're going to install that app.
Mhm.
So let's go to apps over here. I'm going to go to manage apps. Again, I need to be like a administrator or
Yeah.
someone that can manage the space to be able to install apps in here. And down in the marketplace, in the in-app marketplace here, you'll see a bunch of private apps are showing
Mhm.
up. And what I want to do is I want to install that blog post reference list app that we just created. So I've got this blog post reference list app. I'm going to authorize the access because I trust that I'm not going to hack myself.
I don't know, David. I don't know if I would be able to trust myself not to hack myself. That's such a tempting thing to do.
Actually, I should put a disclaimer and say purposely hack myself. I don't know. There's certainly potential to write bugs. Okay, so we've got the blog post reference list installed. And now what does that mean? It seems like almost nothing happened except for the fact that it went from the available to the installed list here. And what that means is now Contentful understands that there's going to be a new way for reference lists, reference lists that contain many entries to be rendered. And what I mean by that is if we go back into the content model and we go back to that content type that I created, not the featured list, the list of blog posts here. And I go into the settings. And again, as you'll remember, I showed in that appearance tab, there was just these two options before. And now there's my third option where the app shows up, which is the blog post reference list app. So I'm going to use that instead of our default built-in UI. And I'm going to save those settings. And now back in the content itself, if I go to the featured list, well, we'll see I've got an error because I'm not running the app. This is coming from localhost 3000, and I don't have anything running on localhost 3000. So I think this is the right moment to start jumping into the code. So what I've done is I've bootstrapped a Contentful application using the create Contentful app CLI. And again, let me just point out really quick in our documentation what that means. It's the CLI tool where you can run create Contentful app. You can give it a name. And what it will do is it'll create this directory structure of all the different locations and components. It's create React application under the hood with like a Contentful flavor on top of it. So it gets you set up and ready to go right away. And what I mean by that, set up and ready to go right away, is if I just do npm run dev, npm run start.
You're thinking of our doc app there.
Yeah, I've created a couple of applications that use dev instead of start, and so
yeah, I always have to pull up the package.json. Context switching is really no fun. So.
Yeah. Okay, so now after it's done its thing, I see that it's running on localhost 3000 here. And if I go back into Contentful and let me just refresh the entire page, we'll see that indeed we are not presented with an error message anymore, but instead we've got this hello entry field component. And this is coming straight from that bootstrapped logic. Again, if you look at the directory structure here, it's coming from this field location. And let's dive into that, what it means in the code. And what we've got here is the hello entry field component. And just to verify, if I delete one of these words, so just say hello entry field, and I go back to my app, you can see that that's updated to just say hello entry field.
Hot reloading for the win.
Hot reloading. So let's see if I can do, I don't know if this is going to be a little bit too cramped, but we can maybe do a quick side-by-side. So I can just show that we can actually start to enhance this kind of stuff. So first things first, what I will do is just for a quick debugging purpose is let's print to the page the information that's going to be in this field. So as you'll remember, I added those two blog posts as references. And now what I want to do is instead of rendering a paragraph, I think what I'll do is I will simply stringify props.SDK. Sorry about the editor going a little wild here.
No worries.
But what I'll do is I'm going to access the field. And I think I'm going to just get the value of the field. And that's going to come to me in a...
Oh, sorry. My doorbell's ringing. I'll be right back.
No worries. So what this is going to do, it's yelling at me because it's not a React component. So let's put this inside of a React component. How's it going? Okay. So what we've got is a React component that's simply rendering out the value of our field, which is a JSON object, which is a list of reference fields. And let me see, I think, can I format this to be a little bit nicer? No, I can't. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to take this data and we want to start to render some custom.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So what I've done, just to catch you up quick, Shy, is I've rendered out the data that's, the raw data that's coming into this field.
I see some IDs there.
Yeah, there's some entry IDs. So actually, if you'll notice, this is an array. So you can see it starts as an array here.
Yeah.
And what we've got is we've got two objects in the array, and the array is basically pointing to two entries. And we can see that using the entry IDs. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an asynchronous call that happens when the field renders using useEffect.
Sorry, is that so Irish Beats just joined the chat. Is that a Jason Lendorf emoji that you're using? Because that's really cool. sorry for getting distracted there, but there's a fun custom emoji in our Twitch chat today. So.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's see here. So I'm going to get the value of the field. So when our component loads, I want to get the value of the field, which is going to be, again, this
that
array.
Title in that field.
Yeah. And if you can see here, the objects inside are in a sys property. And I think what we want to grab here is just the sys ID. And the ID is going to correspond to two entries, right? So as I get the value, I want to map over these values. And I want to say, let's just kind of simplify them to sys.id. So these, again, should be
get the values and
stealing at me for something. It has a type of any. All right, we're in TypeScript. So I will give it a type of any just to move forward here. If this was a real project, obviously I would type out the interface of the objects, which is, just some metadata there. And so now once I have these, let's call this the reference entries. So these are reference entry IDs. Okay, so it's going to be an array of, say, two IDs. And I think what we'll want to do on that array is say reference entry IDs. And what we're going to do is we're going to map over those IDs. It's going to yell at me again. This will be a string. What we're going to do is we're going to map over those IDs. And we're going to call props.sdk.space.getEntry. Okay. And the get entry takes an ID of a string. So we already have, now what we've got is an array of promises, because get entry returns a promise in which it is calling the network to go and get the full versions of these entries. So let's call this the reference entries in question, right? So these are the entries that we're looking for. And I'm going to do some fancy promise logic here where we're going to promise all on this array. And what this will mean, and I need to, this is going to yell at me big time. You know what? Because I need to put an async here. And then, yeah, it's going to yell at me because I shouldn't be doing async, blah, blah, blah. What I'll do instead is, instead of using a wait, I'll just do promise all. It's going to be the entries promise. Let's clean this up. And I'll just do a dot then. And so once we have the data, let's set that piece of data into the state. So set data, I'm going to set data into the state. And to do that, I'm going to use another React built-in here called use state. And I'll create a state object. So we'll have entries, and it's going to be, we're going to have entries and then set entries and use state. And the default state is going to be an empty array of entries. So no entries at all. And once we do get data, I'm going to set the entries as the data. Okay, and let's call this any. Okay, so what I've got is, hopefully, an array of entries that will come in after this component loads.
Mm-hmm.
And to see if we can test this theory, let's just add the entries here. JSON stringify these entries. Okay. So let me review what I just did. So I created a variable called entries. This is where we're going to hold our entries state.
Mm-hmm.
And when the field component mounts here, when it shows up on the screen, I'm going to call, using the SDK, the value of the field currently. I'm going to map over those values and just grab the ID of the entries that are coming back to me. So what this will end up being is this is going to be an array of strings.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I do is I take these array of strings and I map over them and I call this get entry, again, using the SDK. So this is going to get the full data from the entry. And because this returns a promise, I'm going to have an array of promises. So I do this promise.all logic to resolve all that. And when all is said and done, once I have my data, assuming the data works, I will set the entries. The entries will get set, React will do its thing, and they should be rendered inside of this stringified div.
Let's take a look, see how it goes.
And it looks like that worked.
Yeah. So for folks just joining us, aka Stefan, who just joined us and is asking us what's up, we are working on building a custom renderer for the reference field. And so right now we have installed the app framework and we are starting to look at some data and starting to format it. And I see that we've got a bunch of new information now, so which is really exciting. So we're making good progress.
Yeah, so I think now really what what's up to us is to sift through this data and start to make sense of it. And as I look through, let's see, I think I added one that was a blog post, and here's what I was looking for, right? This is the first sentence, this is the second sentence. So what I think we want to do is we want to drill into this data. So we can show the title of the blog post, and then we can show that custom value that we wanted to show, which the built-in reference field was not showing. And I think by doing that, we can start to illustrate how it's possible to dive into this reference field and build a custom app that completely does whatever you want.
I was taking a look at the former 36 documentation for a little bit. So that's f36.contentful.com for folks. And so former 36 is our internal design library, and well, not so internal anymore. It's an open source design library that we use to design all of the Contentful stuff, and it's open source so that when you're making apps, you can make the apps feel like they belong in Contentful. And I was taking a look at some of the components, and I think it might be fun to actually mess around with maybe the tab component. So maybe have it so you can flip through tabs for each of the items. I don't know. What do you think in terms of components and styling?
Let's try it out. I think it will kind of show. I mean, we'll have to put in a little work here, but let's take a look at what you're talking about. So the tab component being tabs here.
Yep. So maybe like clicking through and getting each individual item, and then we can maybe style the items from inside the tab.
Right. Okay. And just to quickly catch people up, I just jumped into something kind of crazy here, which is we've got a storybook application, and what that is it's this thing that displays all of these components using dummy data. So you can go through and look at all the Forma 36 components. You can inspect and see how they work. Right, here's a button, and you can change the different kinds of things about the button. So it's it's just a playground, a sandbox where you can see how the code works. And like Shai, you just mentioned, this is an open source design library that we have built. All of, like, here's a button that's Forma 36, the publish button. So you get access to all of these as well, and we can use them and build off of them. So yeah, let's try that out.
We actually we just pushed an update to the Contentful app. It's not the Contentful web app. Sorry, I'm having Monday syndrome on a Tuesday. We just pushed a visual refresh to the Contentful web app, and that has come along with an update to Forma 36. So if you are doing app work, if you're making apps, there's some updates to do to make it feel a little fresher. We made the app a little tighter, a little cleaner, a little more consistent overall as well. So yeah, it is something we do keep up to date, and we are still pushing fairly regularly.
everything got a little rounder and there's a little more subtle shading.
Yeah. It's much more modern.
Yeah, I like the way it looks, but call me biased. Okay, so yeah, so we've got this tab component that you're recommending. So what we can do is we can actually show references via tabs in this case. And it looks like if I'm in Storybook here, and again, this is f36-storybook.contentful.com. And what you were
let me
talking
toss
about,
that in the chat for folks so you can click on things instead of.
Yeah, and what's cool is we've got the non-Storybook version, which again does show you some examples of the app working. And it's
this is the one that I usually mess with is just the standard docs, but I'm old school like that.
It's totally fine. I think what I'll do actually even here is I'm going to copy and paste this straight in because we're going to just use it as is.
Yep.
So instead of doing this return here, I'm going to copy and paste this in, and let's close that out.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's going to yell at me because we haven't imported.
Yeah, we haven't imported tabs from Forma.
Right, but what's really cool, so again, I used that create Contentful app bootstrapper, and what that means is we get these Forma 36 components out of the box, so all I need to do is import them, and I've got them in here, right? And I'll remove, for now, I'm going to remove that paragraph component. We don't need it. And yeah, so now it stopped yelling at me, and if I go back to the render, well, yeah, I guess I'm still getting yelled at.
I don't think you're doing a return anymore.
Oh, true. Okay, so let me return, good call. And let me put this back in the return statement there. And format the document so it looks a little nicer.
Oof, so nice.
Nice and spaced.
You gotta have at least a second tab. You can't just have one. You gotta have two.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll copy this, put it in, and we'll call this the second one.
It might give you an issue with the ID being duplicate too.
Second, and can I spell? That's always up for debate.
I can't.
And this is not selected, so we're going to have to deal with this whole selected thing at a different point in time. But as you can see already,
yeah, I think it's an ID, so I think if you click on it, it'll actually do stuff. And so we'll probably have to set some behavior to make it handle clicking and all that. But
yeah, it's gonna do some. We're gonna have to definitely beef it up here. But as it stands right now, you can see it was.
It looks like it belongs.
Yeah, it's like criminally easy how you can get this stuff in here. So yeah, all we need to do is, first of all, let's change it to the title, dynamic, right? So so entries, let's map over those entries, and let's do that in a semantic way. So if we, again with the spelling here, let's map over these entries, and we'll say any. Whoops. Okay, so what I want to do is render a tab, right? And I'm going to have the ID be, let's see, something that's unique. So I think that should be unique enough for our purposes. And inside of the tab, I'm going to say entries dot. Ooh, I'm going to have to look at the data structure for this. It's going to be something about, well, let's just stringify it for now, right? It's going to be looking really bad, but hopefully what we can do is we can just quickly take a look and see, because what I want to do is just grab that title, which I think I can grab from the field.
Yeah, I think you should just like entry.title.
So yeah, I'm just kind of quick forgetting. So yeah, this is obviously super hacky what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I don't think this is hacky. I feel like this is just how you make stuff. Is you just
how it
keep
goes.
going until you get it to the. So it'll be .fields.title.
Yeah, .fields .title and then enus.
Yeah.
And if I want to get fancy, I can programmatically grab that, but we don't need to get fancy. So field.title, and it's going to be enus.
Because it's localized.
Right. And that should give us an error. Of course, it should give us an error. entry. Fields, I think was the
Plural.
correct thing. There we
There we
go.
go. Yeah, this looks great. This looks really natural.
Nice. And so what we can do is we can also do something kind of a little funky here, which is we do need to have a selected logic here. So again, let me copy this logic and we'll say selected ID and set selected, and the selected ID is going to be blank. However, when we get entries, I'm going to set the selected as the data and the 0th entry there, and I'll make it the ID.
That makes sense.
If I refresh the page, does it work? I don't know.
I think you still need to actually set it in the format thing.
Very good call.
Let's find out.
Selected here needs to be selected ID. Is not assignable to a string.
Yeah, I think
here we go, .sys.id, and now it shall not yell at me and it shall work.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Cool. So yeah, we've got these two things. And now I need to fix the clicking logic.
Yeah, and we also should probably put the data in there if it's selected. Like let's see the rich text.
Yeah, so the developer's work is never done. On select, let's make this a function, and let's say on select set selected, and the selected shall be the entry.sys.id. And now it kind of works with a bug. Let me refresh the page. Sometimes with the hot reloading, it gets a little funky. But of course, this is user error now at this point.
This is not that time. This is not what happened.
Yeah, I tried to blame it on that, but didn't work. Okay, so there's obviously a little bit of a bug here with my selection logic that we can either try to spend time figuring out, or we can just say, let's move on and actually get the tabs, like the content of the tabs showing up as well.
Yeah.
We can just jump back to this selection logic in a second. Cool. So the tabs, okay, we want to have content in them.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? So we've got a component called a tab panel.
So we'll need to import tab panel.
Yes, let's do tab paneling. And kudos to whoever named these things. They're named exactly how you'd expect.
We can go look in the source code and we can figure it out since it's all open source.
All right. And I think what I'll do here is let's just create a parent where this all sits inside of. And the tab panel. So this is not going to be up to accessibility standards, but I'm going to do a quick.
We're in a live stream. I think it's okay that we're not. We're doing things a little hacky.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that.
Hopefully, the folks in the comments don't yell at us. That's the real check. Is will the folks in the comments yell at us?
True. Okay. So what I'm going to do is a little bit of a hack here, which is. Or not a hack, but just a out of laziness.
Normal programming.
Yes, normal programming. I'm going to find the entry where the ID matches the selected ID. And the reason I want to do that is because instead of rendering multiple tab panels, I'm just going to dynamically.
You only want the one, right? Like you just want the one that's selected.
Exactly. I'm just going to have the selected entry in here. And I'm going to, again, jump into the fields and into the body and into the EN, US. And, right, this is going to be
rich text field, so it's going to be .json, I think.
.data .something. Okay, you know what? Let's print that out again and do our old debugging thing on it. Okay.
And it's given us an error. What's it unhappy about?
It's
undefined.
Possibly undefined, and in which case, let's make the compiler slightly more happy.
All the TypeScript stuff.
Yeah, and what is this saying? It's missing an ID. Let's just do first. That's for, probably some accessibility reasons.
Well, I mean, also we could just do selected entry. Oh, no, we can't because we're already using it.
Yeah, and I think for this one, property does not exist. I think I'll just do a sneaky. Let's just do.
Ignore ignore TypeScript.
Let's just do ts ignore here, and we will deal with the consequences of that
If
later.
we have to.
If we have to. Okay. So yeah, this is stuck on the error message, but if I refresh the page, I think we might be in a all right spot. Yeah.
Yay, it works. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we want to dive into content, and content is going to be an array. Let's take the first value in the array and let's take that first sentence. Okay. So this is going to be
Well, so this is rich text. Is it easy to import the rich text renderer here? Because that's really what we would need to do at some point, is import the rich text renderer and have it render out.
Oh my God. That actually is going to be, so what you're suggesting creates a very interesting component, which is you've got this tab.
Yeah.
You've got this tab reference field going on that actually has the ability to have a rich text editor inside of it. And we could, we could create like an editor with an editor.
I don't know about the that's taking it a level deeper, but I think that's fine. I think if we've got time for it, I think that could be really interesting.
Okay, let's try it out. So let's take the rich text editor, and which is in our Contentful open source editors here, rich text. And it's telling me all I need to do apparently is do this. So let me npm install this real quick.
Oh gosh, here we go. This is getting crazy.
Yep. And as it's doing that, I will set myself up for success here. Or bugs, I should say. Set myself up.
I was gonna say, we still don't have select working, so it's we're definitely setting ourselves up for more work.
So I don't think I need that, but let me comment this out for a second because I'm pretty sure I don't need it. But the rich text editor I will import, and oh boy, so what you're saying is let's instead do this. Rich text editor.
Hey, it's not what I was saying. It's how you're interpreting what I'm saying, but I'll take it. I'll take credit for it if it works.
I think now that I think about it, I think it's going to be trickier than we think, because the problem here is the rich text editor requires taking the SDK, and the SDK is going to be the thing that's trying to pull the field values. So yeah, I actually don't think this is going to work with the time that we've got. We can definitely make it work,
but it's still use like the React renderer though, and like render it, because then an editor isn't going to want to see it as a array, or like, I guess, like, can we just print it into like the standardized HTML nonsense?
Yeah, we can. Again, I think it's going to be
easy, because like we're rendering standard HTML when it's going to be wanting the fragment style.
Yeah.
Right?
So what I could potentially think about doing is we could import like a rich text renderer that creates like an HTML string, and then I could dangerously inset that into like a React component. You know what? I think just for the purposes of educational reasons, I'm going to skip this because there's a lot of stuff that's involved, and I kind of want to get just to the point where we're showing the ability to pull this data, and then we
that
can
makes
talk
sense
about how we would transform it. I'm just worried it's going to take a little bit too much time to get all this rich text stuff going.
That makes total sense.
So back to the original idea here, which is let's dive into content. I'm going to go into the first element of the content. I'm going to hit the value. So right here is going to be value, .value, and that's going to be a string. And let's see if I can
maybe toss it in a paragraph or something.
Yeah,
Khaled is saying there is a rich text React renderer, but
yeah, I have no doubt of that. I think it's just timing here. I do kind of, but yeah, we can do a very simple version, which is what you're saying, which is let's toss this into a p tag, or actually, sorry,
import the actual paragraph.
Let's bring paragraph back. So we'll bring paragraph back, and we'll put this into a paragraph tag, and instead We don't need
Yeah,
a
Khaled
JSON.
is saying the React thing has a document to React component, so we could just toss it in there and it should just work. But
Sorry, sorry, I was distracted. Say that again.
Khaled is saying it's just the React text React the rich text React renderer has a function that's just document to React component,
Gotcha.
and that
Okay.
should just handle it. But
Okay.
why don't we get it working as the paragraph, and then if we have time, we can take a look, because we don't have a ton of time today.
Right.
Ooh.
Okay, this is fine. This is just
Yeah, we're not using it, so just go ahead and get rid of that and
all
get
that
rid of
stuff.
that. Yeah.
Go back to the simpler days.
The simpler days of 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh no, okay. Fields does not exist. Oh, we got to bring the TS ignore back, I guess, or move it lower.
Yeah, so the TS ignore is coming back, although I think this error is still fairly valid, because if we look at the selected entry, sometimes it is going to be just a blank object.
Yeah.
So again, I will do the existential operator just to see if we can get away with this. Okay, so it's not rendering anything. So maybe fields, maybe I am actually doing something a little wrong here. So let's talk about how to debug this problem. I will stick a debugger in here, and we will actually take a look and see what the data looks like. Cool. So selected entry is in blank object, and we don't have any entries, so that seems expected. And now that we do have entries, selected entry is still a blank object, so I've obviously got something a little screwy going on. Selected ID is not set yet. So probably to fix this entry, let's just make sure I'm accessing this correctly, sys.id and selected entry. Okay, so now we have a selected entry, so it's just a life cycle thing that's going on here. So once we do have a selected entry, we should have this fields property. And on the fields property, we should have a body property, which again, I'm just looking at this code down here to see if it looks right. And so on the fields, on the body, on the enus, then in there, we would go into content.
Content array.
And in the first value,
dot content.
Dot content, first value, dot value. So that's where the bug lies.
We got to go a little deeper.
Content, first value, dot value. Okay. A little bit of hard-coded.
Yeah, this is one of those times where like rich text is great, but I definitely wouldn't mess with the raw JSON object generally. But time,
right? Yeah, and this is again like what Khaled is saying. That, there's libraries that are out there fixing this for sure. Content of undefined.
Yeah, I actually don't think it. I think I'm taking a look at the documentation of what Khaled is recommending, and I don't think it'll actually take us that much time to get it working. But I think it might be faster to do it Khaled's way than the way we're trying. But
okay, what's the library called?
Yeah, it's just Contentful / rich text React renderer. And he's already told us the component that we need. So
okay, so I'll just install this.
Yeah. Now we will get the whole thing instead of just the first object.
Great. And document to React components. So I'll grab this too.
That's the one we need.
And as you can see, most of my career is just copy and pasting.
Isn't that most of our careers? It's not just your career. It's like everyone's career.
Yeah, I guess so. And we'll put in here. Let's see. What do I want to do?
So it's just going to be the body. Yeah, it's going to be document to React component for just the body.
Document. Whoops. Document to React components. And this is going to take a rich text document.
Yep. So it'll be that selected entry. And you'll probably get the TypeScript nonsense as well.
What I think I will try to do is factor in the loading things. I wonder, I think that is the rich text audio.
Yeah, I think.
I think that should work. And what
I
we'll
don't think
do,
you're going to want to wrap it in the p tag. I think you're going to want to get rid of the paragraph tag because
yes,
I think it's going to bring one along.
Yep, I think you're right. So it's just going to be in the tab panel. And the other thing to avoid any confusion, if there's no selected entry, basically if like we're in a loading state, I'll just render null for the time being. You know, we could put a loader in, or we could put some kind of transition.
Yeah, like a use effect or something.
Right. And I'm going to, now that that's installed, let's start the process again.
Yeah, MVP Khalid for the win as always. So
giving us tech tips on the fly.
Khalid tech tips.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone watches the Linus Tech Tips, but there's the meme of Linus's face looking strange, and they just did a video where they buy a bunch of bootleg swag of his face. I would definitely wear bootleg swag of Khaled's face.
All right, so we're still getting an entry. So okay, this is where my logic is messed up, which is, let's just keep this as, you know, if it's undefined, it's undefined. Otherwise, it's going to be something else. And I'll just refresh everything because we've been doing a lot of quick changes. Aha.
Yeah, and it looks right.
Okay, let's just take a quick look. What's that markup look like? Yes, it is doing a p tag there. Yep. So it is all valid. Cool, very cool. Khaled, thank you very much. So yeah, I mean, this is actually, we're kind of on our way here, aren't we? Where we're creating new things.
Yeah.
So one of the obvious glaring things is we've completely removed the functionality to add and remove references.
Yeah, who needs to do that, right? Like, who needs to add?
So obviously that is, you are going to have to add that back in and follow the data structure in order for this to maintain as, you know, a built-in reference field. You can't just ignore that. You know, I'm not going to do it now because that's going to require just a lot of legwork to recreate.
I'm thinking like if we continued this, maybe add it as like a plus button in the tabs, and then have it just do that same similar effect as the original reference field.
Right. But you know what's interesting here, and I kind of want to, I guess, wrap up, but also start to show like where this could go, which is, now you can imagine what we've done is we've taken a reference field, right? And we've changed it in a way that allows us to show the data inside of the referenced entry to the user inside of this other entry. So
it'd be cool if it was if it had a link as well to link to the actual thing, so someone could go edit it if they need to as well.
Yeah, actually, I think that one might be very straightforward to do. Like, we're talking a couple lines of code here. So if I put a button, for example, and I want to put in the button, let's put in the button open entry. And I believe what I can do is, on click, we can do something along the lines of props.sdk. Is it space? So here's where I'm going to have to
look at the docs.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to use I'm going to use TypeScript to my advantage here. So open
entry, single entry.
Open single entry.
Oh, no, there's a select single entry.
Yeah, actually, what does select single entry do? Opens a dialog for selecting a single entry.
I feel like this might be the adding thing, like adding to the reference, but
yeah, let's see. Prompt. Maybe I'm just thinking about the wrong thing. I thought there was a way to slide open or open the.
Yeah, how do they do that? I mean, there definitely has to be. If it's built into the web app, it's probably built into.
It might not be dialogues. Let me, I could be just thinking about something else.
Open.
Method for navigating between entities, stored and contained.
Sorry, I got another buzz.
No worries. I found it. So open slide in navigation, I think, is what we want. So let's open the entry, And what does this take? This takes the entry ID, and we've got access to that very easily. So entry.sys.id. And, oh, right. Selected entry.sys.id. And we're going to ignore the possible undefined aspect of this again, because TypeScript is not fully understanding that it can't be undefined, because I've got this null check here. But I think this now should work.
I got a tip for folks that are looking to start their own live streams. Do not recommend living on the first floor of your building, because regardless of if there is mail for you or mail for your neighbors, you are the person that is going to get buzzed. So that's my tip of the day. Don't live on the first floor of a building if you have to be on camera regularly.
You're doing a public service, though.
Mm-hmm.
So just to catch you up, Shai. So what I did was I did find it. It's in the navigator area of the SDK. There's an open entry thing here. And what I'm doing is I'm opening the selected entry in a button, using a button. And if we go back here, boom.
That's awesome. Can we use it with the slide in option? I see I pulled up the documentation. I see there's a recognized option for slide in is true.
Okay, so we do what is slide in equals true.
Yep.
And now we've got ourselves a little bit of a, it's a little slicker.
Yeah, I like that. That's sexy.
Yeah, so this is mimicking actually the reference, the built-in reference, right? Because when you click on it, it slides in.
Yeah. Can you bold something? I'm curious if it's going to do an update on close or if you're going to have to refresh.
Interesting.
And then publish the changes.
Yeah. So let me bold. I'll bold these. What are they called? Ordinals, cardinals, something.
Words.
And wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's really sexy.
Yeah. So yeah, again, this is this is integrating the reference field into a custom app that shows data in the way that you want it to be shown instead of in the way that Contentful has by default shown it. And I think this is just kind of going to show again, if I do a kind of a code side by side here, well, that's not going to work. The code side by side is that we do get a lot of built-in functionality on the SDK here. And as you can see, it's really just a matter of passing in a couple of data points here and there, which gets me like kind of this, pretty complex functionality right out of the box. Like our render method here is what, like 25 lines of code maybe, or even less. Yeah. And
honestly, if we wanted to get real crazy, we could use the actual reference editors that we've got are open source. So we could go into those and we could actually just start tearing those apart and changing those as well if we really wanted to.
Yeah, let's just to clarify what you're talking about here. So these are the open source editors. And if we go to the GitHub page, all of this code is completely available. You can copy and paste it like I've been doing. You can fork it, whatever. So you can change it. Excuse me. You can change it to do whatever you want. So if you want all of that built-in logic of the built-in reference editors, you can get that. The only thing to note is, if you fork these editors, you can always you can keep them up to date with the main branch that we work off of. One of the benefits of using these open source editors is these are the same editors that we use inside of the product, the Contentful product itself. So if there's bugs or anything like that, we fix it, we push that change, you get that for free. So if you're going off and creating custom stuff, you might have to kind of work on a strategy for keeping things up to date. But that's totally up to you. We're not going to say how you should do that. But I think this hopefully kind of helps show that I would say in about an hour or so, we can create this custom reference field. And obviously this is very bare
We
bones.
wasted a bit of time faffing about as well,
Yeah.
because there's two of us, we're socializing as well. So like I think actually even in less than an hour you could pull something like this off.
Yeah. And I think, if I was just heads down, I would probably have a
I
lot
feel like
more.
this is a 20-minute thing for you.
Yeah. But again, it's really cool. And if you're
Mhm,
new to this stuff, I know that we might have moved through this at a bit of a faster pace
mhm,
than you might have liked. And we have done previous streams on
yeah,
kind of more bare bones apps that we've built.
mhm,
And again, I'll just plug the docs here.
yeah,
So contentful.com/developers is where you get the developer portal, and then /docs is where you can start to dive into all the concepts and stuff. And if you're looking for app stuff specifically, we're in the extensibility realm, because we're extending Contentful here.
yeah,
And all of this stuff is referenced. So we've got the SDK reference, which shows, it explains all of the things that we were just working through. So for example, if I wanted to understand more about this open, open entry or
mhm,
open entry or whatever, it's documented in here. It shows examples. So here's the open entry, open asset. It says what the options are. And again, we've got the Contentful open source field editors,
mhm.
and also
Forma, yeah.
f36.contentful.com, where you can copy and paste like I do to build all this stuff. And I
And
think,
then if you need help, if you're struggling or anything, there's always the Slack, which is kind of where we got the idea for this one today, as well as the Contentful Slack, which you can get onto from contentful.com/developers or contentful.com/Slack.
yeah, and I'm hoping actually, I see Ben has asked questions about both the
Yeah.
things that we just covered today, and I'm
Mm.
hoping this provides some insight, especially for him. But yeah, if you ever have questions, we're very active on the Slack.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good conversations going on,
Mhm.
because I think what ends up happening is people, they all have their unique business cases, but a lot of things can be generalized, and so you see
Yeah.
people creating
Yeah.
community apps, things like that, to help each
Yeah.
other out.
I think you're kind of just alluding there with business cases on what I think actually makes the app framework so interesting, right? Like we get a lot of questions and a lot of a lot of things about, hey, I need to do some sort of business logic within Contentful. Like, hey, if for example, if I have a thing set a certain way, like I need you to do this, or hey, if like I need you to default to a certain thing, or hey, I need you to, if you have this thing selected, show me these. If you have this thing selected, show me that. And those are all, I think, really valid and great ideas, but I think what makes Contentful really interesting and what makes it really useful is that we're an unopinionated framework for you. We don't come in and say, hey, this is how you should establish your content model. And so when you make those business cases, you kind of come in with a set of like expectations, and using the app framework, I think, makes it a lot easier to do that kind of stuff, to make that validation happen, to make that business logic happen. And we've only really talked about front end stuff. We've taken some data and we've displayed it in certain ways, but this is just like TypeScript, right? Like if you could do JavaScript, if you can do JavaScript logic, you can make that all happen behind the scenes and make it feel good and seamless for your editorial teams, which I think where this gets really, really exciting. So it's just hard to show that because we don't have non-technical people that need to use our demo spaces. So.
Right. Yeah. And then just to actually quickly touch upon the TypeScript thing and the technical complexity stuff, these tools, they're all built in TypeScript, and there's a lot of use there. Like you can see my editors auto completing things, telling me inline documentation, things like that. But if you're not comfortable enough with TypeScript, it's totally possible when you come in and create like the Contentful app here, it's totally possible to just come in and change the file name to pure JS and just work with JS instead, and it's going to understand that you're not going to be yelled at or anything like that. So that's one thing to note there. Because I do see a few people saying like, I'm not really comfortable with TypeScript, but I would like to get started with this stuff, and it's totally possible.
I was gonna say, where are my Jinja templates with Flask?
That's Put in a ticket.
Yeah, let's see if anyone in accessibility lets that ticket last for more than a day. I'm definitely sure they would just delete it straight away. So
Yeah,
tell me to knock it off.
that'll get considered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, we did cover a lot of stuff. I think we tried to stay within the bounds of just rendering a reference field here. We did go a little over with the rich text editor as well. So again,
But
thanks,
that ended
Caleb,
up
for
being
that.
really fast as well. Yeah, we got that in
Yeah,
like a
like
minute or two.
yeah. So it is nice that these things work together with each other, and you can easily just kind of start to build out these experiences. I'm not sure. Did we get any questions during that time, or?
I don't think we've seen any questions today. But for folks that maybe are watching this after the fact, if you're not watching this live, do reach out to us on the Slack. We're always looking for suggestions on things to build and what people are excited about and what people are looking for. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us on that Slack. Like we said, this was something that Ben suggested to us, and so we were really excited to make it. So please do reach out if you need something as well. I guess the last thing I want to plug before we go ahead and end the stream is that we are at GatsbyConf today, which is a free conference, and we've got like a little virtual booth. So I'm going to be popping over to the GatsbyConf channel. So if any folks are hanging out or visiting that, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to chat. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, that's I think everything from us today. Thanks, David. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on so short notice. Unfortunately, Doug, who is our original scheduled, is out sick, and so he's not feeling well. And so David jumped in last minute, and I really appreciate that. For folks who are watching and we're excited to learn how to code without your hands, Doug will be back in April. So we just pushed him down the schedule, and so hopefully he'll be feeling better. Him and his partner are just sick, and so sorry about the scheduling nonsense. And yeah, thank you again, David. Really appreciate
It's
the
always
save.
and I wish them a speedy recovery as well. And
Yeah.
hopefully, we can do some more of this stuff as in the future. And actually, we did touch upon a little bit that we're skipping over accessibility stuff when we were coding today. So maybe we can even talk about that sometime in the future.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So
cool.
Awesome. Cool. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap the stream up then, and we'll see you all next week. Actually, David, do you know what we're doing next week? I guess maybe we should plug that actually really quickly.
I'm not too sure, but like I said, the week after I will be back on, and we'll be with Felix, and we'll be talking about this brand new app tutorial that I think is a lot more comprehensive and hopefully helps people out a lot.
Yeah, I do know what's going on. I guess that was a leading question. I should I should have said. So I'll be back next week with Salma. Salma and I will be talking about Next.js and incremental builds as well, which should be a lot of fun. And we might have some more Next.js stuff this month as well. So yeah, it'll be me and Salma next week, and then David and Felix the week after that. And then we're still working on the 23rd. That one's still up in the air, but the 30th, Salma and I will be back again to talk about content modeling with the CLI as well, which should be pretty cool. But like I said, that's it from us. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream, and we'll see you all next week on Tuesday.